What is up, guys? Welcome back. We're at the shop and exciting times are happening finally. We got it over here for on the lift, or about to be on the lift. And we're going to be bringing the floor over. And we're going to be making some stuff to get the body lifted up off of it so we can get the floor in it. So, pretty stoked. What's up, guys? Welcome back for another video. We are inside the Nomad, and right now I'm going to get this front lip here at the toe boards all because the old flange is left from the old floor in most of the spots, which you can see. This is what we'll weld to, which is still really good. Then you can see left over from the old floor. So I just got to get that stuff off, grind it off, smooth it out, and then we'll be able to go prep the new floor and get the spots ground down, get holes punched where we need to for spot welds, and we'll pretty much be good to go from there. And then we'll be able to get the floor installed. Well, I guess we're probably gonna move and do the back stuff first, but it'll be ready for the actual install. So let's go ahead and clean this up, put you on a little time lapse, and watch me grind this stuff away and make a mess. Okay, as you just saw, we were getting this cleaned up. Got the trans tunnel portion all cleaned up and ready, and we got that started. There you can see where I'm kind of getting the flange pulled off, but it's hard to get to because the chassis is in the way. So we got all the spot welds drilled out. So that frame's kind of preventing me from getting that flange off. So we're gonna go ahead and make that not a problem anymore. So we'll set you up on another time lapse here and got a solution for that, so that way we can get it done and get that thing out of there and get it prepped for that floor. Okay, as you saw in the time lapse, having a little trouble here. Back of the car wanted to sway, even though it's braced back here. It wasn't twisting, but from about like midway on the quarter panels, it's just kind of wanting to sway. Nothing like detrimental to the point it's going to screw the body up, but I did go ahead and add a brace in between the wheel wells, just as some extra support. But where I'm lifting the body, on the passenger side, it's working great. And on this little brace right here that you saw me make and weld in, I got it clamped to the wheel well because it's not, seamed together yet. But for some reason, this bracket is folding right in the middle. Right when that lift comes up, you kind of get the weight, which I understand that body's pretty heavy, but the other side's fine. And that side wants to kind of buckle right there. So I might add like a little support just so we can lift that, just because it's such a good area to lift this body. And everything else is working so well that I think we'll be able to even, when we do the floor and everything, drop the body back down over it and all that, doing it this way. So I think I might add a little support or kind of reevaluate how I'm lifting it here. So we'll get back with you guys, and we'll may try a different little route here on lifting this thing. So it's working everywhere else, but of course, there's always got to be one. So we'll get it figured out here and may go a little different route. Not sure yet, so we'll let you know. Okay, I'm back. So I think what had happened is the edge of the lift pad was hitting the 90-degree lip that the inner rocker welds to, and that's kind of a stronger point, and it was forcing that lower piece to bend. So I repositioned the pad, and no more bend. So body's up off of it now. And now I can get to that flange to finish getting it off, and then probably roll the chassis out from underneath it after that, and be ready to start doing this tail panel section. So anyway, everything's good there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get on grinding that thing, get it cleaned up and ready, so that way I can move to that back section. So that was a little scary there for a minute, hoping I wasn't folding anything in on itself, but we're good. So let's get to it. All right, made a little bit more progress on stripping this side since that other quarter's done. It was just going so well. And I need a little bit of break from grinding and getting all dirty and nasty, and that's kind of relaxing doing that. So I got a couple other stripping methods I know of that I've done in the past to get down to the original paint, just that this paint isn't adhered very well, the black. Someone did not prep the original blue, so it's coming off pretty easy. There are a few spots where the razor blade dug into it back when I did this the first time, and I think I was just rushing. So those areas I'm going to have to sand and blend a little bit, but it's coming out really well. So pretty much I'm going to stop there for now and kind of just keep picking away at that as we go. So this side's getting a lot closer to being done. And man, when we buff this thing, should look pretty cool. But anyway, this quarter is pretty much done, minus some minor little black left there and on the corner of the fuel door. But other than that, this quarter is ready for blending. So we're gonna go ahead and jump back on prepping this thing for that new floor and getting on that back tail section area. Okay guys, like I mentioned, I am on to the back of the car. And I'd already done some cutting in here previously. Got the old flange to the old tail section off. But basically there's a couple areas I can't get in and drill the spot welds out because of the location. Can't get a drill bit up in there. And even a right angle drill still won't cut it. So basically, pun intended. So basically what I'm going to do is break out the old fire wrench here. And we are going to finish cutting out those, basically blow those spot welds out and cut the last couple areas to get these units out of here so I can start prepping the rest of this for the new stuff to go in. So I just figured I'm done fighting it. This will be a lot easier to get this crap out of my way so I can assess everything and start prepping it, cleaning it up, and getting it ready to weld the new stuff in. So we'll go ahead and get this crap cut out and move forward a lot quicker than trying to jack with the rest of it. So here we go. And as you'll see here in the video or time lapse, cutting this thing out went pretty easy. I already had the other side out, so it wasn't as big of a nightmare as I thought. So hey, it worked out. Okay, so I kind of complained too soon. It was not near as hard to get out of there as I thought. I pretty much, the where I cut it and the spot welds I drilled out were totally it. But now that the body's up in the air, I was able to put some leverage. I don't know if you could tell in time lapse, but basically just grabbed the back of those cross supports there and just worked it back and forth, and it popped out and came right on out. So I think I'm gonna clean up for the day, come back tomorrow, start cleaning this stuff up, and prep that new support piece to go in, as well as the tail panel. And then we will be ready to assess if we want to do floorboards first or replace the toe boards. And being that those are, I haven't put them on camera yet, but I'll show them. We have a couple rear floor sections for this thing, and then we will get those prepped because they're getting sandblasted. Good morning. We are back and getting everything set up, cleaned up all the dirt, dust, and crap from yesterday. So that way I got a nice clean area to work. And we got the replacement piece laid out. I already did a nice little test fit and looks like it's gonna fit really nice. But before we get that thing welded in, we got a little bit of work to do. So these little corners kind of broke off because of being rusty. So as you can tell where this thing ended, that's originally where it come out to. So we're gonna have to cut these off and remake these little sections on each side. And then we need to get up in here and clean up where it spot welds on these brackets on each side. And, you know, I thought this was gonna be a lot harder to get out. And like I mentioned, it ended up being really easy. Probably just my inexperience with wagons / Nomads. But anyway, that being said, probably my lack of knowledge, but there were, I don't know if they looked like hardened pieces of rubber or of some sort that were stuffed up, and this area right here is like a cushion or a sound deadener of some sort. The other side fell out. This side I had to pull out, and then there's that big old pile of dust that come down out of the inside of that guy. But it's all in good shape. My guess would be from this leak, and it got some crap down in there. And anyway, but I'm definitely going to be cleaning this stuff up first, replacing these two ends. And don't worry, I'm going to be putting some rust neutralizer up in the inside of this stuff, so that way, you know, once we clean it up and put that stuff on, it's going to eliminate the rust from ever coming back, or at least slow it down dramatically. So, and you know, this car isn't what it's used to be designed for. You know, this isn't going to be some daily driver out in the snow and salt. I mean, this is going to be someone's nice weather car. So this stuff isn't ever gonna, you know, be a big deal. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and clean all this stuff up and get it prepped and ready to replace these two little ends, so that way we can weld that new piece in and move on to the tail section. So, and I'll take you along with me on how I do this, because that little inner piece here, you're not gonna wanna just fully weld that sucker in and then go fit your tail panel and realize it's not fit. So you almost gotta tack it in place, fit the outer piece, make sure it works, blah, blah, blah. So I'll take you along with me, show you how I'm gonna do that. But first and foremost, let's get this stuff cleaned up as good as we can, get that rust neutralized, and then we'll be ready for metal replacement and fit these new panels. Went ahead and got this thing cleaned up, got some rust protection up in that cavity, and well, some other little areas in there, but we're getting this stuff kind of cleaned up, and we're going to be ready to section these out. Same with this side, and be ready to clean all this up. I just did the edges a little bit just to see what I got. So we're going to go ahead and lop the ends off one side at a time. And once we get those welded back on, I'll clean my brackets up where they spot weld, as well as the areas on there. And we should be ready to at least just tack this thing in place and then fit that tail panel. And if everything looks good, we'll be in business. So even the flanges down here are really nice on each side. So I'm pretty happy. Need a little hammer and dolly to straighten them back out from popping the old one, the old tail panel out. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on and do one side at a time here. And it's pretty easy. There's nothing too fancy about those lower ends. I mean, yeah, it's really pretty easy. So the pieces I cut out, I'll basically use as my template and trace those out. and go from there. Should be pretty easy, so let's get to it. Okay, checking back in, and I've got the 2 pieces made and tack welded in place. As you can see there, they're not in their final form yet because I just test fitted the inner piece there, and I noticed my pieces were hanging over just a little bit, which means I made them just a tad too big, which is fine. So I am going to trim those down, which you can see my lines there, how I need to cut them. And then I'm going to clean up the brackets to be able to spot weld. And then we should be ready to trim those, throw this up in in place, tack weld it, and then fit the tail panel piece and then see where we're at from there. So might set up a little time lapse and take you guys along for the ride. Okay, so as you saw in the time lapse there, got this thing mocked up, so I kind of thought I'd show you where I'm at here. Everything's lining up really good. Pretty stoked with it. Now the pieces I made still need to be trimmed a little bit, knocked down, and then welded. Not a big deal, that's part of it. I got this as centered as it possibly can be. And then this side over here, we have a little bit of the edge here that kind of got cut off when I was trimming because it was so rusty. You can see it's got a little rot right there. So I'm gonna clean this up real good, fix this little area to where it meets up with this, like this side. And then it'll be ready to start finishing out. So it's looking pretty good. I'm really happy with it so far. The tail panel fit in there real snug, and that inner piece pushed right up where it needed to be and laid right in there. So like I said before, obviously I finished weld everything. I'm going to be double sure everything's where it needs to be, but I just need to get it tacked in place and mocked up so I can see what I'm working with and how everything's going to sit. But that inner piece definitely has to be right where it goes, because if you can tell, the tail panel hole lines right up and it's laying right flat on that. So I definitely know I got it in the right position. So basically it's just double check everything, get stuff clean, and start welding stuff in. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory. It's going pretty well. Luckily there was enough there to go off of, so we will go ahead and start cleaning stuff up and get that little spot replaced and finish weld that inner bracket in. Okay guys, let's shut this off so we can hear. So what I'm doing is I got the top lift gate lifted up a little bit and held in place. So what I'm doing is, obviously the tail panel lined up right where I wanted it, which is perfect, but I still got to be sure this thing is square, which I believe it is. I've leveled it and I know how the body's sitting on the lift, but I'm gonna take a measurement because we've got a nice even point right here where the bottom, or right here at this middle seam where these rubber stoppers are. And it's probably hard to see on camera, but right in here I'm gonna pull measurement from there to the top of this base, and from there to the top of that base, and then do a cross check as well and see how square I am. And obviously you got to have a little bit of leniency, being that this is an original body and it's, we've kept it braced up so it shouldn't have twisted and whatnot, so it should be within an eighth at the very most. You don't want to give yourself any more than that, because then you're just asking for it to be way out of square. So anyway, let's go ahead and see what we got here. stop here. $47.5. Right to the center. Come on here. 47 and 47.5. So we're square as far as the cross goes. $47.5. So we're square there. So let's recheck this. Tell you what, make my life easier and go to that. 20 inches. Should have done this the first time. 20 and a 16th. So it's about a 16th out. I will take that. I'm happy with that. So I guess I can go ahead and move on. It's always good to double check that kind of stuff. That way you're not welding this thing in all whopper jawed where your tailgate won't fit and all that. So we should be good. It was no more than about a 16th. So okay, got the heater rolling, getting it warm in here. Basically just went to lunch. So now I had forgotten. Not sure if I'll have this all in one video or not, but on the back side of the tail panel on the Nomads, which I think you can see remnants of it here, that right there and that right there are a couple braces that go from the tail panel down to that bracket piece. So that being said, I haven't shown these in video yet, but I will once they're back. We had 2 extra rear cargo floors for this, and one of them has that back section with those brackets in really good shape. So I will be using those, so I can't weld that tail section in yet until I get those out and get everything fitted. So I'm going to kind of change my plan of attack here, and what we're going to do is finish weld this piece in and get that all dialed in, and then I got to jump over and we need to reuse these. They got the body mount, rear body mounts, and this whole section here. So I got to get these old braces off and the old brace off here as well. So we'll go ahead and get on that, so that way we're all caught up and can have all this stuff prepped, ready and done for when those brackets get back, and I can get that tail section welded in. So get to it. Okay guys, went ahead and got that thing finished welded in. Ended up welding up pretty nice, so we'll show you the route I went to try and recreate as similar as what I could see was there beforehand, which wasn't much. But anyway, here's this side. Went ahead and came down the corner here and up through here. There was a little flange, but it was easier just to do that and come down here, welded on the piece I made, and then a little stitch along here, and then hammer form this down to keep that factory lip that just kind of laid over. And then I'll take the carbide bit, well, I'll smooth this out with the disc, and then take the carbide bit in here and kind of round these out, smooth them out a little bit. And same for this side. I already got started a little bit right there, but anyway, we'll finish and do that side out the same, do the same down here, and hammer formed it to that radius as well. And then what's crazy is this piece here is actually 2 inches shorter on each side than the factory piece. Now that being said, it's not a big deal because there's the braces on the inner side that the factory one spot welded to, which you can see here. But when you measure from here to here, it's roughly 9 inches. and from the end to the center there is 7 on the reproduction piece. But at the end of the day, I just welded the end onto the bracket, and it does the exact same thing. Not a big deal. So I'm assuming they probably did that to save on material and money. But anyway, that being said, I am ready to, I think I'm probably going to go ahead and start smoothing those out. And then I have to make a little piece to fix this area right here. But I think I'm going to go ahead and get all this done. That way, when I get those braces and can weld that tail panel section in, all that stuff is done and out of the way. So we'll go ahead and smooth this out and then show you what it looks like when we're done. All right, guys, getting everything smoothed out. So pretty stoked. And this stuff will get a little bit of seam sealer to kind of make it look smooth and factory. So pretty hyped with how it's come out. So she's in there like swimwear, so we're good to go. And now I can finally start on getting all this cut apart. So now we got some more dirty work to do so we can get those bad boys on there. Jumping back, got this little piece made. As you can see, I didn't get crazy on smoothing it out because I wanted to retain some strength. I'm gonna do a little body work in there anyway. Now these back 2 lower tail panel sections on the outer portions, or I guess outer from the tail panel, but these areas here were pitted real bad, but they weren't all the way through. Backside solid. Now obviously if this, like I've mentioned in the other videos, if this was like a customer car and like a full-on restoration, that would be getting replaced, no doubt. But for what we're doing with this car, it's still in good shape, and I'll show you what we use on areas like that, or even areas that are pitted inside places you can't get to that well. This stuff right here. So it kind of eliminates it. Pretty nice stuff. I'm letting it dry right now. I did that side. And as you can see, the rust is actually turning black. So it neutralizes it, and then you can go over it with a primer or even paint, depending on what you're doing. You know, if it was like a trailer hitch or some, you know, bracketry or something, you could go right over it with paint. But this, we're obviously going to do probably a red oxide primer first. That way, whenever I go to do blending paint, it matches the red oxide that's under this car originally. So I can kind of fake that patina and make it look natural and original. So after that, we'll be ready to basically start on those brackets and the tail panel section itself. All right, it's a new morning, and we are in here getting those rear body mounts ready to go, because I didn't end up filming it, which I know I mentioned I had to clean them up and get them all prepped and ready, and I believe I showed them. But I had to get these things prepped and ready. And with how these things are welded to the original brace back here, as well as the other cross braces that actually went across these things, they were like legit seam welded. I thought they would be like a factory just kind of spotted in, and I literally just had to get the plasma cutter out and cut around where they mounted to those body mounts, as you can see here, 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 and here. So I basically just used the plasma cutter, went around those, got those old pieces out, and then use a grinder and a flapper wheel and knock the flanges down. Basically knock the that level of the old piece off down to the actual mount itself. So now that they're cleaned up, they're basically ready to install. But what I'm going to do first is get the wire wheel and knock all this scaly surface rust and original undercoating and areas and mud and whatever off these things so we can get them painted. And then after that, we should be good to measure and get these things spot welded in place. So basically I just didn't film because it was a ton of work and it would have just been another time lapse anyway. So now we're gonna get these things cleaned up and I'll show you guys where I measure and we'll get them spot welded in. Okay, a little bit loud, but checking in. I went ahead and set these back up the way I cut them out. And And then I basically got a measurement from where the body mount hole came in relation where these are. So I got the first one just tacked in. Got 2 tacks there and 1 on the bottom. That way it can still be moved, and if it's in the complete just wrong position, I can just cut my tacks, move it accordingly, and re-weld it. So, but by going off of where these are at, that should be almost spot on. So I'm gonna set you guys up and get this other one thrown on and tacked in place, and then that's just one step closer to being able to get this tail panel on. So here we go. Okay, doing another check in here, and I was lazy again and didn't set up my phone because I just wanted to get it done. But both of them are tacked in place. So that's where I'm at. The back is as far as I can go until I get the pieces back to put the full outer tail panel on. That'll be last, but at least now the back end is what? Probably 90% finished, structurally sound and ready to go. And I even measured these guys, got them even. So then, like I said, if they're not exactly right, all we do is split the tacks, move them, and re-weld them in. So not a big deal. So after lunch, what we're gonna do is we've decided to go ahead and buy the toe panel pieces on each side. But our center hump's really good, so we don't need the full one-piece deal. So I'm going to clean off all the old sound deadening crap on the hump. We'll get that cleaned up, and then I'm gonna start cleaning up and getting the floor pan prepped and ready so we can get the floor in this thing. Because I've kind of come to the conclusion that you don't want to go welding those toe boards in. If you don't get them in the exact right position, you're not going to meet up to the floor. So since everything else is done and the center is in good shape, we can get the floor pan all prepped, get it up in there, spot weld your hump, your trans tunnel area, and then do all your welds across the rockers and around the, the inner wheel wells, all that fancy stuff. And then you can cut your toe board sections out, and then you have something to go to whenever you get those new toe boards. You know exactly where your floor is at, and you can make the panel fit the area and do it right. So anyway, after lunch, we'll check back in and get that tunnel cleaned up, start getting that floor pan prepped. Okay, checking back in. Got started on cleaning up the trans tunnel, both inside and outside. Once again, I didn't feel like using another time lapse. So I'm just literally using a propane torch scraper and just heating the stuff off and scraping it up. So getting the firewall cleaned up, got that all that undercoating scraped off, and we are going to go ahead and buy the panels for the toe boards. So we'll be replacing both halves there and leaving the original tunnel there because it's in great shape. So that's all cleaned up. And then I went ahead and did the inside as well. So it's obviously in really good shape, and obviously we'll be replacing all that. That's why we're doing the toe board sections, but this is all in really good shape. So pretty happy, got all the gunk scraped off of it. So we're pretty much good to go. I got the inspection cover piece left to finish up. I got most of the gunk off of it, but I'm gonna go ahead and wire wheel it and get it cleaned up. So basically once I'm done cleaning this up, I can clean up this giant mess and we should be ready to get this floor prepped. So I'm gonna go through, see what kind of footage I have, and I'll include the floor pan install on this video, or I may wait till next one, not sure yet. So anyway, we'll pick back up on whatever I decide to do. All right guys, we're back from lunch, getting the shop warmed up. So I figured I'd update you on where we're at. Pan is all ready. Went through and cleaned up all my weld spots. So it's good. I even taped off all my weld surfaces and got everything undercoated on the inside all the way through. Still got to grind that. The wood was in the way there, but so that's all ready. Basically what I'm gonna do now is get it warm in here, get comfortable, and we'll set you up on a time lapse because this will be quite the process anyway, and I won't have free hands to be dealing with filming. So we're gonna get that floor pan slid forward, lower the car, and get this thing up in place, start clamping it. Well, all right, guys, as you can tell in the time lapse, it fought me a little bit, but basically at the back of the car, we had to hand make the inner ledge sections for the floor pan itself because they were rusted and gone. They don't reproduce those for Nomads. And, well, if they do, I didn't see them. Anyway, worked out great. I had to do a little prying, which is why I kind of swapped. I had to cut the time lapse and then restart it 'cause it took me a little time to get it where I wanted it. So, anyway, I'll let you know what we're doing. I had the rockers rested on the lift arms, and it put enough pressure that kind of tweaked the rockers in about 1/8 of an inch, which to be expected, is holding the weight of the body. So I put jack stands under the front body mounts, and that relaxed the rockers, got the floor right up in there. Jason came over, him and I kind of brainstormed, and we got the floor pan sitting exactly where we want it. So we'll go ahead and show you what I'm doing and why we're doing it. So basically what I'm going to do right now is start here. Now obviously I won't be welding these because we're going to be replacing this toe board. So we don't want to burn in the old toe board to the floorboard and have to re-drill them out. So I've been known to do stupid stuff like that. So I'm going to start out and weld my trans tunnel. Stop there so that whole nice radius will be plug welded. And then I'll work my way to whichever side I want to start on and weld in my top flanges on both sides. And we are going to not weld the radius back here where it meets the wheel wells because we still got to do the back floor. So I want a little bit of play back there. So we're going to weld basically everything but the toe boards and the radiuses of the wheel wells. So that way we can, like I just said, we have wiggle room back there. And then that'll pretty much get the thing in place where we want it. And yeah, this will be a little time consuming because obviously you're dealing with two new pieces of metal. The flanges are obviously just slightly gapped. Hold on, where are we at here? Right there. So I kind of got to clamp that as I go so I can weld it. So you want them touching as good as they possibly can to get a good rosette weld to mimic a factory spot weld since we don't have a spot weld machine. So probably hit you guys with another time lapse and start getting this thing welded in. Probably going to be a good couple hours of pushing, welding, and clamping. So here we go. So basically here I am getting the trans tunnel spot welded in, which is what I just went over. And then we flip to the inside. I'm getting the inner flange here on the driver's side welded in, kind of clamping and welding as I go, which is pretty standard with that. You know, the flanges aren't going to be perfect. You got to kind of crimp them together as you go to get it right where you want it. And then we flop back out here and get the car raised up in the air and basically get it prepped and look at what the lower inner and outer rocker, basically how they line up, which is what I'm prepping to do, is get the thing up in the air so I can look at that and assess on how well everything lines up, which you will come to see not very well, but it is what it is. Okay, a bunch of welding later, and I got the mass majority of it welded in, which I'm pretty stoked on. So the entire the middle of the trans tunnel is welded, and all the pinches on the top on each side. And I was gonna do the lowers. I knew they were gonna fight me a little bit, but the stamping on those lower outer rockers on the quarter panels we used is so poor, as well as even the rockers themselves. Doesn't particularly line up just yet. So there's some work I'm gonna have to do there. And then after that, I should be able to spot weld in all of the bottom. And that's probably what I'll tackle tomorrow. Pretty worn out, so that's probably gonna do it for today. And then tomorrow we're gonna come in and jump on that and hopefully get all that stuff knocked out. We're back next morning and we're getting close. So I figured I'd show you this little sketchy idea I got going on here. So this is what we're running into. The outer rocker is sagging a little below the inner. So I just rigged this really safe OSHA approved setup, and it's got me pushed up right where the rocker needs to be, and that makes it perfect on the outside. So what I'm gonna do, clamp it together, weld these, stop, move this thing over, push these up, weld those, so on and so forth. As you can see back here, it's not nearly as bad. It's really just this, for some reason, this middle part was sagging. You can even see it in the stamping. So we'll just keep doing the old push and weld all the way across and we'll be good to go. And then we will do the same with this side. So I didn't think I wanted to include this in this video, but being that this is actually working, I'll go ahead and throw it in here. That way this thing is like pretty much welded in as far as we can go until we get the toe boards and the rear cargo floor. And we just got the call, the cargo floors are done. So we'll be getting those picked up at lunch so I can finish, you know, all the stuff out back. So anyway, let's get to it. Okay guys, we ended up strapping the car down for safety. Obviously, because it does lift up just a hair when you press these rockers up where they need to be. So we just did that to keep it from wanting to move. So where I'm at, got everything welded up, got it right in place. But being that we have the body on the lift, I can't get back to these points, and I may have to cut my weld where the support piece is. And same with the front, I can't get to it because of the wood to clamp it. So my goal is to do this exact same thing on the other side over here, and then leave both ends, and then I'll set the car down on some jack stands on the pinch welds, and then I'll be able to hopefully work on the back and front corners, and then probably put some jack stands on the back support as well so the car doesn't want to rock, obviously. So being that you saw a time lapse of how I did that, I'm not going to bore you with another one on that. So I'm going to knock this side out and then hopefully get back with you when we're lowering this thing back down to finish up the corners. So it's all done. So now we're ready to set this thing down on the jack stands like I talked about and finish up the four corners, which I think on this piece here, I'll have to split my weld and maybe shorten this a hair, do a little trimming and roll that up and get it where it's, excuse me, get it where it's supposed to be. And that shouldn't be too bad at all, really. So, that being said, that should get that corner popped up where it needs to be. Same with the other side, and we will be golden. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing lowered down and figure out a jack stand situation. Okay, we got her sat down on stands. So I'll kind of show you how I got it sitting. Since this is really thick, we got two nice big stands under the back. A couple on the center braces. Then the front body mounts.
So now I can go through and address my 4 corners, get those fixed up, and we should be good to go. We got those corners. We got those corners all finished up. So we got them back up where they need to be. We got both there. And then our front corner up here we got welded in. We got that front corner welded in. And we got this one all done as well. Went right back up into place. I did have to shorten these just a hair, but you know, when you're welding that stuff, you don't really know because there was nothing there. And these replacement panels aren't perfectly factory, so there will have to be some altercations, but it's part of it. Literally just kind of split it. Took about a cutting wheel width, about what? Oh, I don't know. Not much, 3/16 at most, maybe an 1/8. And took that off and went right up into place, welded her up, and we're good. So from the wheel wells, so this is where the wheel well flange starts, where it pinches here, then goes up this curvature. Like I mentioned before, we're leaving that until we get the cargo floor and stuff. So, well, that's gonna do it for this. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get the bracing cut out of this thing, get the stuff out of here. So that's probably where we'll end this video off. All right, so grabbed our good cutting wheel to get these braces cut out, and they kind of fought me. So I must have got these things welded in there pretty good, but we got them out, and then basically you just go through and weld and smooth out where they were at on the jams because we got to address the door jams anyway. So it was a pretty big moment getting these out because they've been in for a long time. So pretty happy on getting those out, and got the door bars out as well. So now we are ready to move forward from there. Okay, as you just saw in that last clip, we got all the bracing cut out of it because now that we got the rockers welded in and the floor welded in, it's structurally sound now, so we don't have to worry about the body wanting to collapse or move or change up our door gap. So here it is with all the bracing cut out. So now we got the lower portions of our toe boards coming, because like I talked about, it's all welded fast up here and on both upper and lower pinch welds. So now once the toe boards come in for each side, we can section those in and then do those body braces that go in here that I talked about in a previous video, which everything's all prepped and ready for those. So now we are ready for the cargo floors when we go pick those up and start piecing all that stuff together to get the back of it done. And then back here, just kind of playing with fitting this tail panel up. Just seeing how well it fits. And looks like it is going to line up really nice when you get it popped up into place. So pretty happy with that. Once I get the braces in, which if you go back and watch one of the other ones, I cut them out, but there's where the top of them mount to. So I got to wait to get the old ones off one of the old floor sections to get those welded in before I put this tail panel in. So we're in a pretty good place now. So sometime next week we'll work on getting that tail panel in and look at what we got to do to get that rear cargo floor in. And then that'll pretty much tie up all the major metal work besides what's left on the toe boards, which we just discussed. So it's going to do it for this video. I ended up getting to include everything I wanted. I kind of thought I'd have to wait, but we really ended up being able to get it knocked out. So pretty stoked. So it should be a little bit longer of a video for you guys. So I hope you enjoy it. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think and what more you want to see on the other stuff. You can let me know. But that's going to do it for this one. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.